Mm. It's it's a hard one to grasp because we've spent our whole life preferring this over that.
Yeah.
And so what it requires is it's a shitty way to put it, but it's a good way to put it, a God view of things, right?
Yeah.
Stepping back and seeing the whole picture. And that means that no matter what it is we're feeling, no matter how shitty it is, putting it into that kind of context makes it okay.
Mm. The, is that something that develops? I'm just trying to, I've had the final shift. So I'm sitting in that. I'm um I'm just seeing if is that a natural component or is that something that develops? I'm not sure I can quite tell.
Mm. Do you get the Buddhist concept of emptiness? Have you considered that one at all?
Yep.
No. And you get that what they're talking about is no inherent characteristic in anything or anybody,
Yeah.
that all characteristics are applied. They're there,
Mm.
they're there from the perspective of the experiencer or the viewer, if you want to
Mm.
put it in terms of a witness. But essentially, nothing has inherent isness of its, like
Yeah.
no cup has inherent cupness.
Yeah.
No rock has inherent rockness. They're things that we apply. And we
Yeah.
apply them with labels, but as well as that, to say that there's a characteristic for somebody who's fully awakened is the same thing. You
Yeah.
have to apply it for it to be there. And
Yeah.
so, of course, everybody's got their own version.
Version of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of I've had to catch up quick with the standard language, almost like the Buddhist language, which is I've found very useful very quickly
Yeah.
finding
It's
myself in this space. Um, but yeah, I've had to the only way I would describe it is kind of somatically understand that
mm,
emptiness.
yep, yep.
Somatically and today somatically understand the not turning away, just the facing, the direct facing. Um,
Well, if turning away happens, that's it
mm,
too.
it's already facing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there's no escape from this.
Yep.
There's no not escape either, which is kind of a
Yep.
weird thing to say, but essentially the, there's anything that you experience, at the moment you question it, you turn it into something,
Yeah.
something that it's not before you question it. So you can be curious with a question, but that means that you're not dependent on an answer. If an
Hmm.
answer offers itself, fine. If it doesn't, fine.
Yeah.
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 So you're at a point where you can just throw all the books away. Every single word ever written about it is bullshit.
Yeah. I was that's what I had to throw away for the final shift. I was
Mm,
writing my own book and I knew it was gonna be that. It was it was my own knowing,
yep.
my own map.
Yeah.
And that was the one that led the inquiry into the final
Right.
shift.
So tell me about your final shift. What do you see as that final shift? Feta 10, if you like. I'm suggesting
Mm,
too that you also throw away the fetters now.
yeah, I think I have to. The final shift was, well, I woke up midnight, um, and it was just on. It was just going. It's like the inquiry started into just dissolving material. Um, and then I felt a very like a strange shudder come into the head, which I likened to restlessness. That was how that came up, and sat with that till it dissolved. And then I went into knowing just what, where's, oh, I'm trying to even remember how I was inquiring. What is it that is known? And then it started to get more personal, like my own map that I was writing for it. Where's the reason that I need to know anything, essentially? Um, that was the kind of line of inquiry that took it in took a couple of different forms, and it was dissolving a lot. And then I just kind of it just there was a lot of a lot of popping um,
Mm.
in my head, and it felt like something had gone, and then I was just like it just was on its own in its own process at that point. It didn't go then. I was that was maybe 2 hours, and then I woke up. I got back to sleep, and then I woke up, and it was just different. It was different. It feels complete in that way. Doesn't feel like there's anything more to do. Um, Cried a lot. There was a lot of mourning. Was there mourning? Yeah, I think there was mourning for the process. Um, could be wrong, but I don't think so. Doesn't feel wrong. I don't know what else I would do, but this from here on out, it felt smoother, felt very smooth, and yeah, there was no. It's so hard to explain. Felt like a shuttering had gone, something like that, and I cried and I cried and I cried.
So,
Yeah,
what is your current experience of knowing slash not knowing?
just this. There's nothing. There's nothing. There is no answer to that. I don't. I don't really know how. I don't know how to answer that.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, that's a good answer. I like that.
I don't know how to answer it. It felt like the attachment I had to my model, which was the strongest one at this point. It was my life raft. And if I think of that model now, so I like my model, but if I think of it, it's loose. It's loose and diffuse, which
Mm.
is the experience through all of these shifts is after on Monday when the existence fell, it fell out of my chest. Um, I didn't inquire about that at all. It just slipped. And then suddenly I am had no resonance anymore. It was the resonance left. So knowing has no strong, there's no resonance. It's not hooked to something. And the synchronicities this morning were just overwhelming,
Mm.
to be honest. They just didn't stop. I got up and it was just one after the other, after the other, after. It was quite a surprise. That settled down this evening. Um, I need to rest. I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired, but that's it. I think I had a lot of existential terror yesterday. Yesterday was horrific. It was rough. I I liken whatever that was to like the trauma of birth itself. I was with my therapist, and then once again, everything just lined up. Everything just lined up. I went in there and I was a mess, and she had no idea what's going on. I haven't seen her since I started this whole process over a month ago, and I'm so sorry. uh, my
Mm.
poor therapist, but she was incredible, and she just put me into the somatic work, and I just stayed with the terror until and I had to kind of sit in like her other room for another 2 hours after I was at her office for over 3 hours, just in the terror. I thought I'd gotten out of that. I was like, oh, I think it's done on Monday. um, after the existence feeling dropped. Um, I think that was me trying to cheat myself out of the existential terror that was coming.
Sure.
Yeah,
Does it feel like it's fully gone, fully finished?
the terror.
Mm.
I've had flashes today. I had fear earlier this morning. Um, I found if like what waking up felt like it was shifted compared to when I'd gone to sleep the moments prior. That shift brought on fear because it was so full contact,
Mm.
um, but so like undeniably home, undeniably home.
So what about integration?
Or yeah, that's the plan. Whatever that means right now, I'm not sure. I think just sitting and I'm walking. I'm probably going to go have a spa later tonight and sit. I'm staying in the relative right now. I'm not focusing in on, I'm just letting the rest of it digest implicitly, I suppose. Like I'm not consciously focusing in on the emptiness, or I'm just kind of doing normal things, staying
So
grounded.
do you imagine that integration might involve revisiting a whole lot of these things, going through them again and again?
I'm curious about that. I don't know. I don't know
Mm.
what it means. I'm curious to hear about what I could expect. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Sounds like I should expect that.
Why should you expect anything?
Fair enough.
So
Mm.
what happens when a remnant of Feta 1 stuff, the existence of a self, rears its ugly head?
I guess my question is, like, I'm just trying to understand that a bit. Is that selfing, or is that identity? Like
Well,
identity coming in?
they're just words, but they're the same thing, I think, essentially.
Okay.
Mm. So I guess what I'm asking you in a roundabout way is, do you imagine every single shadow that's not yet been examined and looked at has dissolved as a
No.
result of what you've been through?
No, I don't think I think that there will be shadow work to continue. If that's the reference,
Yeah.
the sense of moving into shadow work. I did a lot of that before starting this. I really cleaned the path. I realized that this morning. Kind of, I
Mm.
looked back and I was like, oh, that's 6 months after my breakup. I just relentlessly processed my own trauma and I gave myself EMDR, and I learned how to give myself EMDR. Just cleanse the system, but it's not all done. I know that that
Do you
feel
think it? Do you think it
that
ever can
feel
be all
that
done?
no, that feels like a forever task to me.
Mm.
Um, no, I mean, I noticed just earlier beliefs popping up that needed dissolution. Um, um, you know, yeah, I don't think that's ever done. I think that's the ongoing. I don't need it to be, and I'm not expecting, and I don't even want it to be. I think I don't see why I would anymore. I'm quite content selfing.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and being me,
yeah, yeah.
being me.
So where does
And
wanting and not wanting come from?
sure. I
Mm.
feel like it comes from maybe my like scientific answer to that is like my somatic system, my
No,
energetic
I wasn't referring to
system.
that.
But
I'm saying
yeah, but
where
psychologically,
does the feeling come from? Where does that
mm,
idea of wanting or not wanting? I don't want, I don't care, comes has a basis, doesn't it? It rests on something.
mm.
Well, let me ask you the big
I mean,
question.
it would feel that they would come from beliefs somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
So there will still be beliefs in there, eh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
I recognize that. Yeah.
so the big question is, how do you imagine you'll feel if you're not done?
Strangely content. um, wasn't even expecting that. Let me sit into that a bit further. Let me really. I can feel a contraction that's forming around that.
Hmm. Now that's identification, isn't it? That's a protective reaction, protecting itself.
Interesting.
So the real question is, what does that mean?
My What does that mean? The only thing that's coming up for me is that I'm human, something like that. But
Well, there's no escaping that, is there?
yeah,
Mm.
that feels fine. Um, doesn't I just want to see if it means anything else. It's a right lump, right little contracted lump at this point.
Mm.
Um, just trying to look into it.
No, don't look into it, but just be aware that
Okay.
it's there. Okay.
Okay.
What's hanging on to this idea that you're done?
I don't know that I'm done.
Good, good. Of
I
course,
don't know that I'm done.
how can you know?
Yeah. How could I? How could I know?
You can discover that you're not done when
Yeah.
things turn up, but you can never know whether you're done, can you?
No, of course not.
So if I was a Zen master and I picked up my Zen stick and I whacked you across the shoulders right now,
uh,
what do you reckon you'd feel? What would you feel about
Pain.
me?
What do I feel about you?
Yeah, for whacking
Well,
you.
let me really set. Let me really settle into that.
Feel the pain across your back, your upper back.
Yeah.
Oh, stings. Oh, I want to knock the
Nothing.
fucking arrogance out of you. Any arrogance about being done, I want that gone. I'm going to whack you again and again and again until there's no arrogance left.
I feel very gentle contraction in the head. That is all I feel. There is My only response is, of course, I don't know. I'm done. Of course, I don't know. I'm done. That's
And you never will. You never, ever,
yeah,
ever will know you're done.
yeah,
It's not possible to know
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's feeling abundantly clear. Yeah, and that
So is it possible that you can wait for something to turn up that shows you you're not done without an expectation that it will happen?
it's impossible to wait to turn up.
Right? Is it an oxymoron to say you're waiting without expectations?
I
Can it
I
be a question
don't.
without an answer? Can it be a question with no need for an answer?
Yeah.
Can it be a question with no desire for an answer?
Can you ask me the question again?
Are you done?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
In that, there is some selfing in your answer.
Mm.
On the surface, it seems like a good answer that you
Mm.
don't know. Who doesn't know? What does it feel like to not know? What is the not knowing? Is it substantial, the not knowing? How did you move from your obsession with form into your obsession with formlessness?
The uh, it was beautiful. That's Are we talking when the 3D, when the world returns in the formless, in an empty separation ended, and then this is my languaging around it, and then the next day, perception, some overlay broke, and it
So
was
the 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 obsession with form helps you to discover how you create that which appears separate.
yeah.
What is it when you move into formlessness? What is that? Just the absence of form?
Moving
Is
into the
form less
formless.
any less substantial than form?
Is formless any less substantial than form?
I'm not asking you for an answer.
I don't. This is where my Buddhism is lacking, perhaps. I don't know. The world got beautiful and it was terrifying. And I sat in it until the terror passed.
So what was the terror about?
Slipping away into it. Um, Dissolution, overwhelm of like the intensity, I think, from memory. Um, the the I think the emptiness, the voidness of it was came with the terror. Um, Beautiful though, magnificently beautiful. And I would just, yeah, I've just been going for walks and letting it sink in.
There'd be a lot of sinking in, won't there?
Yeah,
Do you think that the ignorance that is Feta 10 subsumes all of the others?
subsumes, as in
As in
the others bloom from.
the others are covered by that one. When that one falls, if you went straight to Feta 10, straight
Mm.
into the not knowing, into the ignorance, would there be any need to do any of the others, do you think?
My sense is no. It seems like the I don't know if I'm making that up based on the maps that I've looked at.
Oh,
It
no, but
seems
I'm
kind
not
of like,
asking. Yeah, don't tell me about the maps. I'm not interested in
yeah,
them. What
yeah.
is your feeling about that ignorance?
Had to go, something like that. I feel about it.
So if you know nothing and there is nothing to know, and you're happy not knowing, which is a by the by, can you say anything about anything other than I don't know? And as soon as you say I don't know, you're lying. So you can't say anything.
No,
Nothing means anything anymore. So if you have an experience of something, do you need to find where it exists on the map? Do you need to know whether it's Feta 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, or anything? Can you even call it experiencing? That's the best answer you've come up with so far, except for what you were thinking about.
I'm looking. I'm just looking. Not finding.
So do you get that the only thing that is actual you're experiencing cannot be described or explained or defined in any way because it's way too complex, way too subtle for any kind of language to even touch it.
Yeah.
What you're facing is a world that is inexpressible in any way. Uh, Yet you still have to go to the shop
Yeah.
and buy groceries.
Yeah.
So how are you going to handle that separation, that split? How are you going to live in two worlds at the same time? How are you going to earn money to buy food? How are you going to live? Time for you to die, right? Nothing left. You've done it. You've reached there and there's nothing left. So top yourself.
I feel very content. Going back into they're not I it feels very clear that there's just no difference. I'm quite looking forward to going and earning money. Quite looking forward to doing whatever it is that I do next.
So who anticipates? Who looks forward?
No one. Whatever is happening. It's happening. There's no fear about it. At least not right now.
Hmm, good. Have you got another appointment with your therapist?
Yeah.
What are you going to talk about?
It's a
She
great
has got
question.
no idea of what you've been through, has she? Unless she's awakened herself.
I'm going to
What's left to
express my
fix?
gratitude,
Mm.
pure gratitude to her being such a big part of this journey. Whatever that means, I don't know anymore. There's gratitude, and it's bursting.
If you just let so much gratitude out that you just become an emotional mess, she's going to put you away, isn't she? She'll see it as something wrong to be fixed, won't she?
I don't know,
Mm.
but seems unlikely.
Mm. Well, welcome to the first plateau.
Thanks, Vince.
Well, now that you're an alien in an alien world, you're going to have to learn the language all over again.
That's okay.
Well, can't not be, can it? Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. The intensity will fade.
It's been so big.
You should write your memoirs while you still remember it. 6 months from now you won't.
Yeah. How does how does it affect memory?
I don't remember. That's a serious joke, a very serious
Yeah,
joke.
yeah,
I wonder whether or not I've got dementia or Alzheimer's, or whether it's memory to do with this. But it's certainly, a lot of people talk about not having the same kind of memory. But you have to
yeah,
watch yourself. Yeah. A lot of stuff we used to store away in memory is no longer worth putting away. It's just rubbish. So we
yeah,
don't remember, but who knows? Yeah.
yeah. I've already, yeah, memory's been pretty whacked, pretty wacky, pretty strange already.
Mm.
Wouldn't have stopped it.
Well, Kat, what's been your reaction to all of that?
Thank you for sharing. I know I came in sort of part way through that, but it was really lovely to hear. I think my reaction is I think I notice a kind of frustration in myself that I want to be there. I find that I am at the moment, the best way to describe it is sort of toggling between two experiences, being in a space where I'm calm and grounded, and I'm able to kind of to notice with awareness my experience and experience things for what they are, and then I'll be doing something worldly, I'll be doing something that kind of pulls me into a role, and I toggle out of it and I get hooked up into old patterns, beliefs, behaviors. And so listening to that, I'm like, oh, I want to be there. Or I want to keep hold of that essence. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the best way of describing it. It's a lot of the time it's either I'm in one world or I'm in the other, and I'm really struggling to integrate.
Mm. So do you get that your idea of what Joe is going through, it's probably nothing like at all what he's going through. That's just your idea of that, your interpretation.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you're envying isn't what you're hearing. It's what you think it means.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you think your shortcomings are, or well, that's a bad way to put it, but you know what I mean. What's missing for you yet is some experience. But the reality is, Joe's done things the way Joe does things, and nobody else will do it like that. And what we don't know and what we haven't heard is all the years of building up to that point that happened before then, that enabled that process for him. It didn't suddenly come out of the blue. It was been worked on probably all his life.
Mm. Mm. That's what I'm realizing. I think we are conditioned to believe that we need to kind of learn, we need to do, we need to strive, we need to engage in certain experiences in the hopes that one of them will sort of be the one or get us to the point.
Mm.
But I think in the moments where I am, and it's definitely, and maybe that's the thing, I'm wanting I'm wanting things to like snap into place, and then
Yeah,
that's it. I've crossed a threshold and I'm never going back. But I'm finding it's very fluid.
yeah.
And I'm starting to, because I guess I have experienced in a way that the mourning, the tears, the kind of overwhelm. And then I think last time I saw you, I'd been feeling very flat. It had gone from a place of like, this is all there is, to like, oh fuck, this is all it is. And now it's like kind of floating down a river, and now I've got to a place where it's a very calm, like, this is all there is.
Mm.
There's nothing more I need to be doing. A lot of my life has been driven, and even with this stuff, with, well, I need to do this, or I need to read this, and the other day I was just eating lunch. It was an incredibly mundane moment, and my mind is so conditioned to be like, I should be doing this, or I should be doing this, and I was just like, this is all there is. If this is all there is, there's nothing else I need to be doing in this moment.
Mm.
There's a kind of, in the moments when I am able to be aware of I mean, I don't like to say the word reality, because there is no reality, there just is. Reality suggests that there's something else.
Mm.
But I'm coming to a place of neutrality, and it feels very calm. And there's a part of me, I guess, sort of, to use terminology, the ego, that doesn't want that. It wants more, it wants excitement. I've been craving all sorts of things that I don't really engage in or don't bother me, like alcohol, caffeine, even smoking. I don't smoke. I've never really smoked apart from here and there, but like that ego part's like, I just want a thing. I want to feel a thing. Like,
So if you can step back even half a step, you can see that wanting something, it doesn't have to be defined. Wanting something is an expression of something being missing. And that could be as general as excitement. You're just saying excitement, yeah? Earlier when you said 3 different versions of this is all there is, I wanted to reframe it for you to say this is all, right? Because this is all there is suggests that there is an insufficiency, that something is missing. But if you stop it all, this is all, it's a version of this is everything. And I just have this image here. Somehow you know, we can look at this as everything from the perspective of how disappointing. And if we shuffle around to a few degrees to one way or the other, we can go, well, this is fucking wonderful, isn't it? Look at it. Look at all of this. It's all, you know, it's everything. You know, so it can be anything that we describe it as. We can look at it from all of those perspectives, and all of them are true, or none of them are true. Same thing. Can you get that? One way to put it is to say that there's some magical objective intelligence somewhere that's orchestrating this show, and that all-knowing intelligence knows exactly what you need and is providing you with exactly that every moment of your life, every moment of every day of everything, all the time. And we can throw that whole all-knowing bit out and just say life does that, or you do that. You subconsciously do that. You subconsciously are never going to give yourself more than you can cope with. Even when Joe breaks down and he's just crying, I mean, his most recent cry was in appreciation of. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't lacking. It was something so fucking wonderful that it couldn't be contained. You know, all of those things are there all the time in everything. So you are right where you need to be right now. And if that feels a bit empty, then that's what you need to look at. That's what's being offered to you. Let's look at emptiness. Let's look at insufficiency. Let's look at dullness or lack of excitement. You could go bungee jumping tomorrow if you wanted, but that's not the kind of excitement you're after, probably.
Yeah, there's what I'm noticing is how I've spent, well, again, I think we're conditioned, but certainly for me, I'm realizing, I'm kind of waking up to the fact that I've spent so much of my life feeling like I'm not whole, like I'm not enough. I need more. So in terms of, you know, my work.
Oh, welcome to the human race.
Yeah. What is that? You know, why are we conditioned? Why
It's
are we
crazy,
put
isn't it?
into schools at the age of 4 and made to, and really, really conditioned to believe that we're not enough and we always need more?
Yeah. How many people take that to their deathbed?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it? That's sad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. It's really sad. It's really sad.
So how great is it that you have tripped over the question? Is there another option? Is there a different way? Is there something else? You know, however you want to put it. You know, those people that take it to their grave never come across that question. That is the only way that it can ever be for them. But you've tripped over this. Wow, this is crazy. And you can even see how it happens. You can even see the conditioning involved in how it happens. Wow. But you pass that step of just feeling dispirited about it. You're at the point where you go, oh, it's possible. It's possible that we can have excitement in the mundane. We can have excitement in ordinary, everyday life. It can be there if we just see it from the right angle.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I've always been a concept that resonated with me the moment I discovered it was the Chinese concept of wu wei, of living without force, of not doing.
Yep.
But it's one of those concepts, I think, isn't it? I feel like a lot of Eastern ones where it can't be intellectualized. You can't get it. You just need to experience it, and it feels like that's what's starting to unfold.
Yeah.
And it's not about kind of staying still, or it's not about trying to sort of grab hold of anything. It's about just flowing where life takes you, like you said, whether it's sort of the roles
Yeah.
that we play, doing the things that we do, going to the shops, but it's doing it from a space of I'm just going to let it unfold. And my
Right.
mind, don't get me wrong, I'm but the centers of my brain, I guess the kind of amygdala, the part that feels like it's kept me alive for this long by preempting all of the possible things that could happen and that I might need to think about, that's having a field day at the moment.
And it will, and it will. Yeah. So I like that the the imagery, the video. I don't know what you call it. It's a video, not a still. Okay. The imagery of Wu Wei is don't push the river. Okay. So we're in a boat going down the middle of the river, and the current's carrying us. We don't need to row. We don't need to start a motor. Right? We don't even need to steer. And this is the thing. What we've been told is you got to keep your attention on that tiller. You got to keep steering it to stay in the middle, otherwise you'll run up on the rocks. But when you let go of the tiller, what you discover is the current keeps you where the current flows strongest, which is not where the rocks are, which is right in between the rocks. And so how do we learn to go with the flow of the river in this case, right? We recognize when we don't do it. We recognize when we've got white knuckles from hanging on to that tiller so hard that we don't need to do it. But you know, it's like we don't realize when our grip is tightening.
Mm.
We just suddenly realize that it has tightened and we're hanging on for dear life and we're steering, but we know we don't need to. Intellectually, we know we don't need to. So we can let go. Right? And then we're going, oh yeah, look at this. This is lovely, you know. And the next thing you realise that we've grabbed it again, and we're hanging on, and we're steering it again. So each time we find that we're not doing it, we're not going with the flow. That's our moment of retraining the brain. That's our moment of shifting everything from left brain control over to right brain awe. AWE in this case, not AOR. OAR. It's right brain creative wonderfulness, sense of awe. But next thing you know, our left brains come in and saying, "Oh, you got to keep control. If you don't, you're going to run up on those rocks. Look, there's some rocks coming up. Or I'm sure there'll be rocks around the next corner, even if I can't see them."
Mm. Mm.
So each time you discover that you're not doing it, you can let go. until the next time you discover you're not doing it. And that retrains, that changes the habits. That's a really big one. So it's an ultimate wonderful want, desire, when it's not there, to be able to go with the flow, to trust, right? But the reality is we've been trained with mistrust and control, and we have to change that habit. And we don't do it by telling ourselves, like you already know, you do it through experience. It's only experiencing, oh, look, we went through the middle of those rocks and we didn't even go close to them. Wow, that's a relief. Now, next time I come to rocks, I can give that a go now because I know it worked. That's trust, or the absence of mistrust. Yeah.
It's like living, which I guess is what a true meditative practice should be. It's like living, like meditation. So as you said, sort of, we don't notice when we're sitting and meditating, we don't notice the moments our mind drifts off. Otherwise it would, but it's noticing when it has and coming back, and it sounds like it's the same. And I feel like what I'm finding for me anyway is it's really important to have a lot of compassion around this stuff, because it's very easy again for the left brain to be like, you idiot, you can't do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
You've messed up, rather than like, oh, well, brilliant, well done, you
Yeah.
notice. And being kind to ourselves, because as you say, I guess that's the learning. In fact, I heard something brilliant, which was if you're bad at meditation and that you find your mind wanders off a lot, or I guess with this, if you find you're constantly getting hooked into sort of left brain and old beliefs and patterns, brilliant, because the more you do it, the more you get to notice, the more you get to practice, the more you strengthen the pathways. If we were instant, there's
absolutely,
no
yeah. The worse it is, the better it is. Absolutely, yeah. And that "you idiot" thing is so prevalent in us. That is what Penella calls the post-it notes on reality. That is the birth of suffering. Absolutely. And again, we are so conditioned with that stuff. Yeah. Shit happens. I love that saying. It might be a new saying. It might be an old saying I haven't heard, but shit happens. It does. But the reality is, if we grok that shit happens, it's not shit. It's only shit if we go, you're a fucking idiot, you shouldn't have done that.
Well, I remember a really core moment when you were guiding me through the gate, through the waking up process, was when I think I said, so I must have messaged something like, oh, but I just still keep finding I'm getting frustrated by this, or I'm getting anxious about this, and it was the way that you very calmly stated, oh yeah, you'll continue to get triggered for years to come. And that was really useful, because it's like, I'm not doing it wrong again. It's more and more infuriating that we're sold by a commercial industry that makes money from it. We're sold the notion that once you wake up, that's it. You're living in a blissful, serene state all day, every day. And it's like, no, like you said, shit happens. Stuff triggers you. The conditioning is deep. I wonder if there's Zen Buddhist monks who've devoted their life to this, who still get triggered by stuff, but you just notice. And know that it's knowing that it doesn't have to be like that. That doesn't have to be existence. That's where the power is.
That's big. That's huge. Yeah. I dislike the term when I think of it. I dislike the term "everything is as it should be," but I love the philosophy behind it. Right? So I would reframe it slightly so that I don't get hooked on the word "should" and get involved in thinking about that. That I would just reframe it to say everything is. I can't say any more, but I want to say it's okay as it is, but it just is, and that's okay. So there's not really a way we can say that, is there? But anyway, that's the thing, and that's such a big one that alone would be enough to wake everybody up if they could immediately grok the fullness of whatever is absolutely fine. And if it seems like it's not, you're just not looking at it from the right perspective.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, because if you think about it, if we were, well, we kind of are born enlightened and it's conditioned out of us, but if we didn't have that experience and the struggles and the kind of everything we experience, we wouldn't get to where we are, as you said, sort of
Yeah.
everything.
Well, like you
If
said, the badder it is, the better it is.
mm,
If we see
if
it
we
from the
stayed in the,
perspective of that's our learning opportunity, yes.
yeah,
Mm.
and we never look back on the sort of nice, calm, gentle, easy moments and think, oh God, I learned a lot from that. We look back on the horrible, gritty, difficult moments where we're tearing our hair out and we think there's something wrong with us. That's where we learn. And I guess if you can then sort of reframe that so that when it does come up or when we are frustrated, to be like, there'll be something really useful in this, because
There always is, yes, exactly. Yeah. So why aren't you awake, Jed?
Why don't I wait? I might be.
Good, good. I wanted you to
Really
shout out, I am.
These days, sometimes I'm thinking, is this it? Is this it? And
You mean, is this
lots of
all it is?
I mean,
How disappointing if this is all there is.
not so much that as is. I don't think I quite intellectually know what it's supposed to be. I suppose, and I know.
I love that one. Yeah.
So I guess my mind's just like, I don't really know.
Oh, right. Well, you should buy my book. I've got a book that tells you exactly what it should be, and it'll only cost you $1,000. The paperback version, not an ebook. Yeah.
When Joe was having his lovely big cry, I felt like I know that place. I don't think I maybe know all the rest of what I was hearing Joe say. for me, what's kind of making me doubt, I suppose, these days is I generally feel like I'm struggling, like things are hard, that I'm tense, and kind of got a bit of a blanket of I don't quite know what it is, some heavy emotion, maybe sad, maybe hopeless, some stuff like that.
So why is that not okay? What's wrong with that?
I don't know. That's my question. Like, maybe this is just okay. Maybe that's just the way it is for me now.
Well, I
I don't
rather
really know.
imagine it doesn't feel pleasant for you, right?
No, but also if I have the space to really notice it, how it is, as I said before, it just starts shifting really,
It
but it
changes
kind
when
of
you notice it. Yeah, okay.
but then it kind of coalesces again, and if I have space to really look at it, it starts to break up and smiles come, and then when I just getting on with stuff, it kind of coalesces back and kind of like cloudy sky that the sun keeps peeping through or
Okay,
something.
I love what I'm hearing you say. This is good stuff, okay? Can you recognize stories that might hang off that say if you're not on the ball, it'll stay here, coalesced and feeling shitty? Is there a story
That,
like that somewhere?
that's not the story.
Good.
That's not the story. And the story is, um, I guess it's more of a this can't be it kind of story, or yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. I don't know how to get past that. We've been fed so much bullshit about what is it that that's yeah. Fuck, I was going to walk on water when I got enlightened. No worries. If Jesus could do it, I could do it. Yeah. Fuck, I still haven't worked out how to do it though.
I need to go in a moment, but there was a brief anecdote that really hit home with me that I've found really useful around all of that, Jed. And it was I think it was Sam Harris, if you know him, who yeah, and he was apparently having coffee with a friend, someone who does lots of meditation, and he was sort of, as you do when you sit down and have coffee, he was complaining about, like, oh, I don't know, my house needs loads of repairs and it's costing me loads of money, and my kids are struggling at school, and was sort of reading off all these things, and she just looked at him and said, it sounds like you're trying to get to a point where you don't have any problems. And I found that really useful, because I think I've been living my life thinking like there's life with problems, and then there's a life where all of the problems go, and it's like, no, it's life is a series of problems and difficult experiences and all of the stuff in between. And for me, what's really helping with the undoing and the kind of relaxing is realizing, in a way, since starting this guiding process, nothing's changed. Everything is still exactly as it was before, but it's just an awareness that is as it's as it's again, like it's Vince. There's no language for it, is there? Like but that's kind of how it's meant to be. That is, nothing's going to change. It's just an awareness that it's okay as it is, if
Yeah.
that's useful.
People often say, and I love this one, people often say, nothing changed, but everything is different. And you kind of go, what? What do you mean by that? Well, it's really clear to me what that is. And I describe it as the external circumstances are the same, but the perspective that we filter it through is different. And consequently, we have different reactions to it. That's the way I would see that. So shit still happens, except we're not obsessed with the smell anymore. We're probably enamored by the colour and the steam coming off it or whatever.
And on that one, I'm going to go. Take good care, everyone. It's good to see you. Bye.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you.
Yeah,
So I could say, Jed, look, this is not it, but it is it. Right? In exactly the same way. Right? It is it, but you haven't quite shifted enough in your perspective to see the beauty in this. You're still seeing it from the old perspective, maybe more so, maybe not completely, but more so than from the new perspective, which says it's rather wonderful. So I tell this story sometimes when I'm guiding somebody, and it's probably appropriate for me to tell it to you now, because you're at this point, I think. We are, as humans, we are response bunnies. That is, all day, every day, we're responding to something. That's our nature, right? We wake up, we have a thought, we respond to it. The thought is it's a wonderful day, or it's a shitty day, whatever it is, we respond to the thought. We respond to the next experience that we have. We're responding all the time. And that response is always filtered through our perception. And another way to put that is through the stories we tell about it. So it's stories all the way down. It's stories. The world exists because of stories. It's easy to see that the world exists in the way it does. The appearance of it is because of the stories. That's easy. Right? When I say this to Joe, the world exists in its actuality because of the stories. He gets that. You don't yet, probably. Right? But it just accept that in its appearance, it's filtered through your stories. And those stories are there because of a lifetime of experience, everything you've ever heard, everything you've ever experienced, everything you've ever seen, touched, smelled, everything is involved in the stories through which you filter reality, so-called reality. So it's stories all the way down, right? There's no getting away from that. Now, if you have a story that you're not awake, you're going to see things through that filter, right? And that filter means, oh, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world, right? But if you have a story, I am awake, you've shifted 15 degrees one way or the other from where you used to see things, and everything is new. You're looking at it from a different perspective through different filters. And it's not just a shift in degrees one way or the other, but you're also stepping back and seeing a bigger picture, right? There's a lot more involved in your perception than there used to be. So you used to see things through a toilet roll like this, and now you see things like this. You can see peripheral vision. And so it's a bigger perspective as well as a different perspective. And that's because of you've got a story that you're awake. Now, telling you that story doesn't mean you can adopt it. You can't fake it till you make it, so to speak. But what you can do is you can appreciate that there is no such thing as being awake, right? It's not a thing. It's not a state. It is best described as different experiencing of whatever's in front of you. That's all. And so there's no, experience. Yeah. So there's no certificate. You don't get a badge to say you're there, you've done it. No trophies to put on the mantelpiece. It's just, wow, you know, and nobody knows. They look at you and they go, oh, geez, Jed, you're the same as you always were. Or if they know you really well, they might go, oh, yeah, you are a bit different. But no way they can appreciate the amount of difference that's happened internally for you in the way that you respond to. So you've got different physical experiences because you're no longer stressed out like you used to be. All of a sudden you're going, oh, well, that's just the way it is. No worries. Yeah. So it's getting very close for you, time for you to consider looking at the world through the story of I am awake. Not because you're awake, but yet it's true to say that if you look through at the world through the story of I'm not awake, then you're not awake. And you could look through the filter of the story that I am awake and still be not awake. But it's not a sudden thing anyway. So when you are awake, that doesn't mean that you're completely awake. What it means is, what the Buddhists say is stream entry. You've put one foot on the path. You still get to drag your other foot out of the mud and put it on the path too. Right? And it's a path that'll metaphorically go on for the rest of your life. And sometimes it'll seem like you're at the beginning of the path when you've been trudging forever and ever, and you think you're a long way along and you're not. Or you think you're at the beginning and you're actually a lot further along than you think you are. Who knows? There's not a progressive thing. It's not a linear thing. The reality is you can be in a whole lot of places at once. So you can be at the point where you think you're fully awake, and as soon as you say that, you just laugh. You just think, "Oh, what a stupid thing to say!" You know, there's no such thing as fully awake, or if there is, I don't know what it is. Yeah. So forget all this bullshit about is this it or not it? Is it enough or not enough? What is it? What is your experience? That's where your focus can be, and not a narrow focus, a soft, broad, slightly out of focus, where you can see a lot more. And every time you think, I wonder how far along I am, you whack yourself over the shoulders with that Zen stick, and you go, stupid question, irrelevant question. Because where I am is here, regardless.
Right, yeah. No, I can see that's a useful perspective. And it's persistent. It's there's something feels like it's really important to know. Like it's really important to know if I'm like going in the right direction or something, or if I'm like, you know, going down some dead end, or I've got some like misunderstood idea or perspective or something that's getting in the way, you know, that kind of.
Yeah. And that's true. It probably is. But, you know, I actually can't imagine a wrong direction, because whatever direction you're in is where you need to be. And it may be in a wrong direction, but the realization that it's a wrong direction is what brings a correction.
Yeah.
So
You've got to realize that.
Yeah, in other words, you needed to go in the wrong direction to find the right direction.
Just to cross that one off or something.
Yeah. And the good thing is keep doing it with people. Don't do it by yourself. When you're just by yourself, it's so easy to get lost.
Yeah.
because we
no,
fool
it's really,
ourselves all the time. We're really great at fooling ourselves. It's the first skill we ever learned, metaphorically at least. Yeah.
yes, it's really interesting, the difference. I know, like, I haven't been much in live meetings over the last couple of weeks. This morning, even, you know, before you were speaking to me, there's just something really different about being in it live. Even if I'm, you know, getting my breakfast ready, it somehow engages my brain in a much more dynamic, responsive way or something.
Mm. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good trick, and this comes from back when I used to do hypnotherapy, but a really, really good trick, good skill to develop. I say trick, but it's really a skill to develop, is to, when you're in a really good space, good place, anchor the feeling, right? So you examine where it is, what it feels like, and so on, and you say to yourself, I'm going to remember that there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you do that, you only have to do it a couple of times. It's amazing how quickly it can become really powerful. Then you can find yourself in the middle of a shitstorm and you can go, oh, remember that? And all of a sudden, that memory will have you feeling it again. Oh, and you'll just relax and, well, all the hairs on my legs stood up when I did that. It's just that amazing instant take you back to that place of being relaxed and calm. And you can do it in the middle of anything. Just anchor it when you're experiencing it.
And so, how does that kind of fit in with the idea that shit is good because shit is learning and useful? It,
Well, probably the easiest way to put it would be to say you can recognize that there is a learning opportunity when shit is present. Right? It's not saying that shit itself is good, but the opportunity for you to view it differently is present. The opportunity for you to experience a different reaction to it is present.
mm-hmm.
And what we used to think was great shit turns out to be hardly anything. Because
Mm-hmm.
this is a tricky one, but a true one, and that is that 10% is shit and 90% is what we add to the shit. Right? You hit your thumb with a hammer, there's pain. Right? You fucking idiot, you shouldn't have done that, is suffering. And
Yeah,
90% of the experience you've got is going to be suffering, and only 10% is going to be pain.
yeah, I get that.
Right? And the really weird thing about the pain is, you know, you can be really focused on that thumb throbbing where you hit it with the hammer. And if I stick a needle in your right arm, you won't feel the pain in your thumb for a moment. You'll only be thinking of your right arm. Right? So
Yeah,
it's just where
it's the
your
story.
focus is. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really useful, Vince. The what you said about what's useful about the shit isn't being kind of lost in it, but it's seeing clearly what's going on in the shit, and so that, like you say, anchoring, I guess, helps you get a bit relaxed, and then you can kind of understand what's going on in the shit more clearly if you're a bit more relaxed in it.
Yeah. And it's like also part of the appreciation that will come is that where at first glance the shit appears to be everything,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whereas when we're not lost in it, it turns out it's only a fraction of what's actually going on. There's a
Yeah,
whole lot more other stuff that we didn't even pay any attention to because we were so involved in the shit.
Yeah, that it's so bizarre, isn't it? That, as I was saying, the kind of blanket of sadness or hopelessness, it seems so thick, and then when I get a bit of perspective on it, it's like it's actually so ephemeral. It's it's almost like, where even is it? It's
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's it. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. Now you've got to be
all right, man.
careful that you say to yourself, I can do this, but you know, that idea is 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 the wrong way to go about it. You know, that idea is part of the shit, right? So the idea that I can fix it just
Yeah,
adds to it because you're going to be either successful or you're going to fail, and most likely you fail because you can't really have any effect on it. Whereas that total acceptance of it is what gives you that big wide perspective. Right? I'm
yeah,
not fighting it anymore. I'm now looking at what it actually is and what all the other things that are around it that I wasn't noticing while I was focused on that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm going to shoot off for work now, man. So thanks, and I'll catch you next time, Vince. Cheers,
Okay,
Joe.
no worries. Thank you, Jed.
See you, Jed. Vince.
Yeah, Joe. What are you looking so worried about?
I'm afraid of something. I think I'm afraid I've blown my brains out too quickly. I'm afraid of my human animal. I'm scared. I'm scared.
That's understandable. I mean, boy, you've really barreled into this at a fantastic pace. You know, you're going so fast that nothing's getting a chance to integrate as you go. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you're bundling up the whole kit and caboodle, and now you've got all of that to integrate, and that's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it
Yeah.
is the way it is. It's like you don't
It
have
is.
control over it. You can't slow it down, but you can recognize that it could happen at a slower pace. So
I just
what
want to
do you
rest.
do? What do you do with that feeling of being overwhelmed?
I just got to feel it.
Just got to feel it, exactly. So you know the answer to these things,
Yeah.
but you've just got to do what you know. And that's a bit, you know, that's a bit of an oxymoron in that as well, but you get what I'm saying. Right? So just bringing it to your awareness will be enough to allow it to kick in, right?
Yeah.
You know that feeling overwhelmed is feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
and that it's a feeling. It's not required for you to escape from that feeling. In fact, there's value in not escaping from it.
Yeah.
What you've got to tell yourself again and again and again and again until you get it is that it doesn't matter where you are.
Doesn't matter where I am.
Yep. You've got nothing to prove. You've got nothing to achieve. This is just the journey that you're on. It's a really interesting journey, but it can't be described and it can't be defined. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And if
Oh
you've got to
man.
curl up into a ball, pull yourself up into the fetal position and lie on the floor and cry, just do it. Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that.
Do you have, I know I'm asking for miracles here. Just talking to my human animal, do you have any idea how long is this going to take just to settle if I just fall into it fully? Until it's just a little less intense.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And 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 you don't control whether you bore into it fully or not. That will
Yeah.
happen or not.
Yeah.
And it'll take as long as it takes. And maybe this is a good one. Ask yourself, what if it never gets better? I mean, that's pretty unlikely,
Okay.
but simply accepting that as a possibility will free you from that.
Yeah.
But it's quite logical and quite reasonable to consider that because this is so intense, it's not going to last as long. I work with some people, and it's 2 years, 3 years, and then they're there, and they've had no big epiphany. But what you've done is you've compressed that 3 years into 3 weeks or something. Very, very, very compressed.
Yeah.
Well, of course it's going to be intense.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So
Fuck.
one of the questions that is really relevant in my experience with people that wake up to say how do we know whether somebody's woken up, even though we know that that's just a story thing. And one way that we know it is seeking drops.
Yeah.
They stop being obsessively searching for something because they're much more focused on what is.
Yeah.
Now, when you say, how long is it going to go on for? You're seeking. So tell me what you feel in the body. I want to know your physical reaction to me saying this to you. What do you experience in your body when I say to you, you're not there, you're not awake yet, you're not enlightened?
Nothing. Just scared, Vince.
What do you think you're scared of?
I don't know.
Well, you can accept that you're scared of something, can't you?
The
You're not,
intensity. The intensity. I'm scared of the intensity.
because it feels like a bad trip that's never going to end. Ever taken too much psilocybin or any of those kind of things?
No. I mean I've tripped, but it's I've
You
never
didn't
gone
have
hard
the
on psychedelics.
experience of in there that you're going to, when the fuck is this going to finish?
In this process.
No, when you're tripping.
Or, oh yeah. I think I've had that before.
Yeah, this is somewhat like that, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, where's the relief?
Yeah.
but you always know that it will. Then, now you're not so sure.
Stories.
Hmm.
I'm telling stories again. Today was lovely
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
most part. And it
yep,
was, I think I'm just activated, body's activated.
sure, yeah.
I'm
And
just
let me say, telling stories is fine. If you know their stories, it's even more fine.
yeah,
If you're lost in the story, then there's something to do.
yeah,
Something that we could see, better if it's different, not lost in the story. But if you're lost in the story, you're lost in the story. And if you're lost in the story, eventually you'll realize you were lost in the story. Eventually, it'll always happen.
yeah,
Right? So nothing is permanent.
yeah,
It's not possible for you to stay in this intense state forever.
yeah.
You get exhausted and you'll have to go to sleep, and then you won't be.
Yeah,
And if that sleep is a metaphorical sleep, that is that you start being more in the unawake state, that's also fine because it's what needs to be.
yeah,
And it will be
yeah,
temporary simply because of where your focus is.
yeah,
See, you appear to have a totally different story to me. And my story is I'm going to be finding out shit about myself. I'm going to be discovering shadow stuff and little areas where I identify. I'm going to be discovering those for the rest of my life. You seem to have the story that says at some point you'll be completely done and that'll never happen again. It might be true, but it's certainly not part of my experience so far. And I've only been at this now, I've only been what I would call awake for about 15 years.
maybe I do have that story.
Yeah.
I think I think um just overwhelmed. Just overwhelmed.
Mm, mm,
Just gotta go be overwhelmed.
yep. I get it. And what's the metaphor that's applicable probably is that you're burning up residues.
Yeah,
And of course there's a lot of heat when you're doing that burning up, and that's part of the intensity. There's that intense turning it into charcoal, turning it into ash, letting it blow away. That whole process requires a lot of heat,
yeah,
and the amount of heat required is so much that you don't end up with charcoal, you end up with ash, and the ash is so fine that the wind just carries it away and it's gone. So that's kind of a metaphor for what's going on for you. And it just is the way it is. It is it. It's your personality, your nature that's brought it on in this way. And you, like all of us who embark on this so-called path, we come to it from a place of trauma.
yeah,
It's the way it is, we recognise that we were weirdos when we were kids, that we weren't like everybody else. It's just the way it is. I've yet to come across the exception. There are no doubt exceptions, but I haven't come across them. And I've been dealing with people I've been guiding for, 14 years. And I've come across a lot of people on this path I've yet to come across the exception to that. So I presume it is the way for you. I don't know that it is, but I presume it is.
It's definitely trauma.
Mm.
Wanting
So
to
I asked the
love.
question of somebody. I would say, how old were you when the first time the thought occurred to you that you're not like the other kids?
I don't know.
Were you at kindergarten or
I think I
early
was afraid
school?
of kids in kindergarten, in year one, when I went
Yep,
to school.
yep. So there you go. Right? Why would you be afraid of them? Because you're different to them.
Yeah.
So you've got a lifetime, just like all of us, a lifetime of that. And at some point, your escape mechanisms they evolve and they get pretty active. We get pretty good, pretty skillful at our escape mechanisms. And then at some point, we go, I've heard about this so-called spiritual path. You know, that might be the best escape mechanism I've got. Let's go down that road and see what happens. And then for me, at that point, there was 45 years of seeking, looking
Yeah.
for a way out before it actually happened. You're not even 45 years old yet. So, you know, some point it happened for you that you got onto the idea of this path and away you went. And it was like, wow, this looks like a good way to get out of all of that suffering. Let's go for it. And your nature is, 100% effort. Let's go for it big time. Well, of course, that in itself creates a whole lot of suffering, doesn't it?
Yep.
So the way I see it, and it's just, obviously filtered through my own experience and perception about the whole thing. But the way I see it is that things have happened so fast for you that you've skipped over lots and lots of stuff that you don't even realise you have. Now, I might be totally wrong here, but I just imagine that that's the case, and that those things are going to rear their ugly head until they're all gone, till they've all dissolved, one at a
Okay.
time or more than one. And at the moment, it's probably more than one at a time. So a lot of what I would call your current suffering, which is you describe as the intensity of this, is simply because you've just got everything happening all at once. And as you slow down, those things can start to separate, and then we can cope with them one or two at a time, and eventually they'll not be such a big deal at all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It means nothing about being awake or not awake.
Yeah. I
Right?
don't care anymore.
Once we that's right, that's perfect. And once we've had that initial shift, right, then the rest of it just got to happen. It just flows on. It can't not happen.
Okay.
So you could probably say that so much of what you've learned through your experience is going to be really handy in dealing with the stuff that you haven't yet seen, the stuff that hasn't yet been triggered. But it will come up and it will happen. And you've got now, it's a tricky one to put it this way, but I would say it's like you've got the knowledge that you need to turn into a skill. to deal with each of those things separately as they turn up. And so at the moment, the intensity is because there's a knot of this stuff. There's so much of this stuff, right? And this burning up of everything that's there doesn't have to be a bonfire, but it is a bonfire for you at the moment. Right?
Yeah.
But we can pull the fire apart a little bit and have a whole lot of little fires, and there's not so much combined heat. They're a lot easier to cope with. Yeah. Now, what I'm suggesting is going to be valuable for you is that you put in the background the stuff about awakening and fetters and self and no self and all of the various elements of that, desire and aversion and form and formless and all that stuff is just put it in the background.
Yeah.
Right, and relate to what is going on for you directly. Right, so don't see it through the filter of those things.
Yeah.
Look at it directly. What am I experiencing? Right, and if you can find a label to describe what you're experiencing, you've come to a dead end. What you've got to do is open a doorway in that dead end and go through the doorway to where there are no words. There's no labels. There's no way of describing or defining what you're experiencing. Right, so what we're talking about is you, how can I put it, appreciating the qualities of your experiencing that are too subtle and too complex to be described. So if you can get down to physical sensations of what you're actually experiencing, and that takes you out of your head, that takes you away from the framework of awakening into what is actually happening for you with no end result. No, not looking to fix it, not looking to change it. We're just looking to experience it, appreciate the quality of the experience. That is your way out of the intensity and into the base of the fire.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that. That'll happen.
Mm. Right.
Okay. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. And keep coming to these meetings for sure. And we're actually Marius and I are talking at the moment, and there's he's going to start a couple of groups himself, and one of those sounds to me like it would suit you down to the ground, and that will be yeah, I don't know quite how to put it. We're still working on how to frame this so that people get it what we mean. But it'll be a how can I put it? I'll say this, but I don't know if it's really accurate. But it'll be a more confrontive kind of group.
Yeah.
That will anyway. Let's wait and see. We're still trying to formulate how to express what it is that's going to happen. But yeah.
Okay.
But Marius guides in a quite different way to the way I do, and he's much more direct with things. Okay. Yeah. He would say blunt, but that's not quite the right word. I don't think, but anyway, that's how he describes it. But okay. But I suspect that'll be good value for you too. But until that happens, you know, certainly keep coming to these groups, and
Yeah,
you know, yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go be with this shaky body.
Yeah, okay. And enjoy the shakes, experience them in their fullest. Yeah.
Thanks, Vince.
Okay. Hi, Lou.
Hi, Vince. I enjoyed that. That was really yeah, I could really resonate with all of that. When you started talking about just forget the fetters and all the structure, and that's just what I have been doing. Like, I don't really know whether, like, I'm kind of tired of all that reading and watching and compulsion to find out more. Like, it just feels tiring. And like, so I don't know what this is, but it's like I just want to get on with life, with a life. And it's not my life, it's a life.
Yep, I get that. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get where I all of the stuff that, like the fear, I really resonate with that fear. And I'm sure there's more to come. But it's almost like I don't need to go looking for that anymore. I don't know. It's almost like I was looking for that before to get through something.
Yep.
Bear with me, because it's just I haven't kind of spoken this out loud. So 10 years ago, I set up a business coaching business, my own. I stepped out of corporate and came and set up my own business, which was really scary at the time, but it started to do okay. And I've spent the last few months just quiet and just trying to figure out what to do next, because I do need some money. And I'm really drawn to go back into the business coaching again. I don't know why, but it's like I'm a different person. Like I'm trying to navigate the old stuff. I just see things so differently. So I think I'm just going to step away from that whole thing as well, and just it's like every time I take a step toward, and this is just, it's not a real step, but every time I take a movement towards getting on with life, I see that it's got some past grabbiness, control to it. I think we talked about this last time, but if I just watch, almost, like stuff comes up, ideas flow. So yeah, I wanted to say then I'm confused. I'm actually not confused. I'm actually really okay. But I can sense there's still this urge, this compulsion to strive, to get, to be. And that's the bit that doesn't feel,
Mm-hmm.
it's really subtle. It's really subtle, because sometimes there's a being and a doing that's just doing. It's just I'm not doing it. And then there's this grating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine that there's probably a story somewhere that says if you don't strive, it won't happen.
I think that's gone. I think that's gone. It's more like an excitement. It's more like
Okay. Yep.
it's more like, oh, I want to capture that idea and I want to do that. And it's like got an urgency to it. And then I found myself down a rabbit hole again. It's almost
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So tell me
it's
if this is what comes to mind here, and from triggered in my own experience, and that is that urge to be creative. It promises a high.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the striving to be somebody or be successful is not it's not there anymore. It's
No.
more like a game. It's more like it actually doesn't matter if it doesn't work. It's more about the creativity, like you said. But you're right. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it. It is a high. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's what
Of
that
course, there's
there's an
nothing
edge.
wrong with that,
Yeah. Mm,
but it is a potential danger in that's why we start things but don't finish things.
yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's that initial high, but then there's something quite familiar, disappointing, here again, different flavor, same thing. And I realize I've got caught by this is going to be different.
Mm.
And then there's the whole thing. There's something. It's wrapped in helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's just a subtlety of is this selfing or is this creativity? Is it flow? It's just all mixed in together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had that thought about you. We can describe it in a variety of ways, and one way to say is you're a very big-hearted person, and you want the best for everybody, and you want to help everybody, and so on, at your own expense. That's the trap. That's the
Yeah,
downer side of it. Yeah. Um, and that's because you do get excited with possibilities, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's time you grew up and realised that that's not the way it's going to be all the time.
yeah,
But you know that,
yeah.
no, I'm not telling you anything new there. Yeah.
But that's new. But what you've just said is new. That is recent. That is recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that because I suffer with the same thing. I've using those terms, but it's like that. I'm inclined to do the same thing. Yeah. I definitely know about getting high on being creative, it becomes everything.
Yeah. But there's also like this chain the oh god this I don't this isn't how it's supposed to come up, but when I try and put stuff together, I realize that I'm so far from where people are at. I have such a different perspective that it's navigating how to go back to think you know what I mean. Like, how do I? It's like a bridge. I've got to go back on the bridge a bit to
yeah, and it's
see where
pretty
I'm
grey
going.
over the other side, you know.
Yeah.
It seems that way. It seems dull.
Mm.
You know, it's all the excitement's on this side, not over there. But yet, do you have to
It's
go back over the bridge?
yeah,
Well, you do. Of course you do. You have to live in both worlds.
yeah,
But how much, of
yeah.
course,
I
is the
think
trick. Yeah.
that's what you were talking about before. It's a skill, isn't it? There's a skill to playing the game. Like I can play the game. I'm in the game sometimes still, very much
Aren't
so.
we all? Aren't we all? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. Actually, I'm all right with. I'm really okay with that. I'm really okay with
Hmm.
that.
Because you're not stuck in it.
Yeah, but it's like just sometimes just want to step away from the inauthenticity. There's a I don't know if it's an unwillingness or just haven't got the energy to engage in playing the hide and seek. You
Yeah,
know, the
yeah.
wall,
Okay.
the walls. There's walls that are up, and it's hard to.
Yeah,
Does that
I
make
get that.
sense?
Yeah, I do. I'm with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Marius and I were having a conversation about this the other night, and it's a big thing. Um, and I'm trying to get over to him something that's a bit difficult, a bit subtle, and tricky to kind of express. But it's like in that inauthenticity that seems to be prevalent over the other side of the bridge. Those that they're authentically inauthentic. Now, I don't know a better way to say that, but they believe that what they say. They believe, you know, their bullshit is their life. It's not like they're bullshitting about their bullshit. They believe the bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I see.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
And I see
what
this. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Carry
no,
on. I'm listening. I'm all
okay.
ears.
It's a tricky one, but so what we've got to do is 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 we've got to ignore the bullshit, the superficial meaning, the part that's really bullshit, and hook into the fact that they believe it. Right. So we've got to hook into where they're coming from. What is it that they're intending? And in most cases, in most people, it's something good. They just don't know how to be authentic with it in a way that's okay, because it's not appropriate to be a real person in that world. You've got to be a pretend person.
Mm. Yeah.
But it's a real person that's being a pretend person. It's a real person that's pretending to be something that they're not.
Yes.
And that's what we've got to hook into when we do that. And that's the skill. It's a little bit of a trick to that. But we've also got to really know how much of it we can cope with. You know, I have a fairly small tolerance for it. You know, I can only cope with so much of that. So I
Mm.
disengage a lot as a result of that. But you know, but I can handle some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You talk. I noticed that when I'm engaging, there's a whole range of stuff that's going on inside, and it can range from compassion to judgment to all that's my inauthenticity, my authenticity. It's like a
Yep.
constant moving. Um, it's not static. Like it's not a
Yes. Yeah.
the whole interaction is constantly moving, and that's quite fascinating, actually. But energy wise, I do find it quite tiring. Like I do
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want to
For
go and
sure.
just be quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I have to recover. I have to go and be by myself and recover
Yeah.
after so much of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't feel apologetic about that. I just do it. I just leave and go away, go somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So I got really hoodwinked this morning. Well, I got hoodwinked for a lot shorter time than I would do. My son, 18, and he wants to be 18, but he's still, still needs me to do things like a 5-year-old. And I just woken out, I was tired. And all I wanted to do was sit on this meeting. And I soon saw that I was just wanting to get away from that situation over there. And I could just feel all the old patterns come up, all the anger and the frustration and the woe me and my life. And it was so funny that I ended up just sitting down, and I all of a sudden I had this perspective that this is just, you've got a choice. I seem to have a choice to stay with that energy or whatever, or get curious and see what's really going on. And honestly, it was so different. So there was a bit of both, actually. But but it happened quite quickly. Like it would usually take quite a while, and I just ended up bursting out and laughing. I'm sure it was very confusing for him, but I gave him a big hug, and I saw in that moment you were talking about with somebody earlier about in any moment there's two angles, there's two perspectives, and I think that's what I just thought. Yeah, I can. There are two perspectives to this. It's never static. It's never one. Yeah.
And it's even trickier than to think that it's one or the other. They can both be running at the same time. Now that's a real weird one. That one, like you can be feeling heavy and laughing at it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I often hear you saying that, and I have noticed that. And it's like old conditioning says, no, you have to stay in one state. Yeah. Anyway, it's just so lovely to be here and speak again. Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Bianca's having a cup of coffee by the looks of it. I don't know what that sign is. Thank you, Vince.
Be right back, she's saying. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Lou. I always enjoy talking to you, hearing you.
I like what you said about Marius's group. I did message him about a week ago, and I said something along the lines of like I sense that I come across as being quite gentle and need to be gentle, don't be direct with me. But it's not, it's actually the opposite. Like, can you just be really direct with me? I'm not very good with dancing around, and I think that's why I like this group. It's so direct. And he did ask me, who is it that wants to be, that wants that? But yeah, that confrontation, the black and like have a look deeper, further into that experience is something that it's just Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, we've spoken about this quite a bit, and I, although I don't do things according to a plan, or I haven't, I don't set out to do things in a particular way. But what it appears to me, when I look back at what the way I am, or the way I think I am with people, is that I kind of offer opportunity for them to go somewhere. And what Marius wants to do is says, down that hole, get in there and let's look at it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I can see the value in that as well. It's just not my personality to do it that way so much. I do it a bit, you know.
Yeah.
I had
But they work great together. I think
yeah,
it
we
works
do.
really good together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah, we're a good team. We're good mates. Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I said to you earlier about growing up, I just had this little thought to myself about, well, oh, Vince, oh, what are you doing, Vince? Just
Wow. No, that's what I like. I like that prodding. Now, you could probably take me back a year and I wouldn't have liked it. So that kind of relates to what we were saying about, interacting with people. Like you're saying, it's a skill to know, and I love that you're comfortable enough to be more direct and do that. Because to me, that's where the juice is. If I get reactive, it's I didn't actually, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's funny, I've been putting myself into more situations where to test that reactivity. Not meaning to, but it just has been happening, just taking myself out of my comfort zone. Because there's nothing to be taken so seriously. There's nothing, there's nothing life threatening. I wouldn't do things like
yeah,
falling off a
yeah,
cliff or anything, but
yeah,
just
yeah.
like
I get it. Yeah,
interactions is like, get it wrong, see what happens. How does that
yeah,
feel?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like before, we don't look at the specifics and we go, oh, that's going to be, I've got to avoid that,
Yeah.
and whereas now we go, okay, I'm a bit curious. What's there? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. More of a game.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is an interesting one. Marius has been. We've been talking about, and we use Jed McKenna a bit because we're both little bit familiar with it, with what he's written, and um, we were having a conversation about the difference between somebody who really wants to get enlightened and somebody who just wants to be a what Jed called a human adult, which was kind of like awake, but not. Well, I don't know how Marius would put it, completely burnt up.
Um,
There's, yeah. Um, and
yeah. Yeah.
so I've decided, well, I'm just a human adult. I'm not really awake at all. I'm just awake enough that I'm comfortable with life the way it is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas you saw Joe earlier on, and he's burning everything up. That's right up Marius's alley because that's the way it was for him. He went through. He burned things up in a way that's
Mm.
pretty intense. Yeah. Whereas me,
And
it's yeah,
yeah. That's really interesting because I have thought about this. It doesn't right now. I can't say that is my experience, but what I did resonate with when you talked about the speed and the uh, the integration, I sense that, and then there's always more to come, I know, but I sensed that I had a slower
Hmm.
burn, a few burns over the year, and then they just feel normal.
Which is the way most
You know,
people do it, I find, and
yeah,
that's maybe
uh,
because, yeah,
yeah, and I can remember, lying on the floor wanting to die, like, for hours, and just, stuff coming through. But um, uh, when stuff comes quite intensely now, I'm not so there's not so much fear around that happening. Like,
mm,
there's just a knowing that it's going to be passing. I do, like, there is something that says, there is something that says this is for the good, which is probably not true. But the big dramatic burn, I sometimes think, well, I can't be awake because I haven't been through that. But I've been through smaller versions of it, like
yeah,
slower, lots of them. I mean, nights of terror and all that kind of, faces and all kinds of stuff. But
mm.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but with the thing with that stuff is, as humans, and I always use the analogy of a woman giving birth to a child. You couldn't probably imagine. Well, you would know more than me the intensity of the pain of that giving childbirth. But you can remember that it was incredibly painful, but you won't remember what it felt like. 12 months later,
yeah,
you won't remember what it felt like. Right? And it's the same kind of thing with the intensity stuff. I have vague, just really quite vague memories that I did have lots of intense moments. And I can remember being an intense person. Uh,
yes,
but these days, that's almost like I'm talking about somebody else. These days, it's kind of very laid back, flowy kind of, couldn't give a shit about anything kind of thing these days, pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes, yeah, I get that. And it's a bit odd for someone, especially when they're close to you, to wonder why you're not giving a shit about stuff that you used to get really controlling and anxious about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be quite disconcerting.
Oh no,
Yeah,
everybody
so I do.
seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, so I do sometimes wonder if sometimes I think, well, maybe there's something much bigger coming along, and then I realize that that's
Well, you don't know, do you?
that's seeking. No, exactly. Don't
Yeah.
know.
But it is, you
Yeah,
can easily see how you can think if something's really intense and it's painful, then it's like, oh, this is good work. This deserves something. It's an achievement. You get a badge for that.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for your service, ma'am. Or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and just touching upon those things, so, like, there's just such gratitude for that more peaceful flow when it's there, and knowing that that's not life, like life is ups and downs. But like this morning with my son, I knew I was in my old controlling, you know poor me ways. I knew it, but then it just was funny. It was just so funny.
Mm,
And that, so the bit that I'm just about to say is the bit we talked about last time. That's that extra layer of now judging and making something of that experience. And that's the bit I've been seeing a bit more.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. And the bit that you're maybe not seeing, which is equally big and equally ephemeral is that whole experience, which included seeing that it was happening, means that it's going to be different next time. However small or however large the difference is, it'll be different because of that.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us again to focus on one side and miss the other side.
Yeah. And there's a split. So there's an old pattern that wants to like go, yeah, that's really great. So let's go for it. And then there's there's so many of these that have been seen like that it's not a big, it's like not a big deal that there's that kind of split now.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's been a lot less wanting to talk about it and shout about it. It's just, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just the wanting to shout about it. It gets harder to do that because we're appreciating it at a different level. So it's like it can't be put into words in the same way. So it's not just that we want or don't want to shout about it. It's that we can't shout about it in the same way because we're now experiencing something a lot less gross than it used to be. When it was gross, it was much easier to shout out about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this feels quite vulnerable, but it's probably nothing. So that's quite interesting. But there's still sometimes some old pattern of jealousy when somebody speaks about an insight or something, and sometimes there's a little bit of, there's something inside that wants to, I don't know if it's helping or showing that I know something. And I'm talking about this because it feels really icky sometimes. It's like I want to jump in, like a little child wanting to jump in and go, I know the answer. Or, yes, I have that too. Does that make sense? It's quite childish.
Well, you mean that judgment that it's childish?
Feels childish. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. That's fine.
Yeah.
See, yeah. Again, this is a slow process where we recognise that we're judging something, and that judgment isn't us doing the judgment. It's what we've been taught. You know, we're echoing somebody else's idea about it. But what we know is that it appears to be childlike, and then we add the judgment and we say it's childish.
Yes.
Absolutely everything is just there to be seen. It's just there.
There seems to be like a sometimes I don't say anything because I don't. Sometimes here's a judgment that I think that I come across as telling people how to do something, but there's something inside that says you've had this you've had the same experience, and you can resonate with it, it might be helpful, but it
Yeah.
seems to come out as a telling or judging or
Well,
and
you know,
so
you
nothing
might
comes
say
out.
that you're very arrogant about your arrogance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arrogant about my arrogance. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a tricky one, but yeah. So a child will just blurt out, yeah, I know, me too, whatever. And what they're
Yeah.
doing is they're turning everybody's attention back onto them, right? But you might develop if I say more skillful way, which is what I want to say, but I don't
Please say
mean.
it how. Please be direct. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am. But I'm wanting to be clear about what I'm saying. So there can be a more mature way of putting it, which is,
Mhm.
again, I'm relating to myself, that what I find is that I trust that my intuition is in sync with what they're saying, and so instead of me saying, yeah, I know what you're feeling because I feel it too, I'm going to go, is this what you're feeling?
Mm. Yeah.
And so I'm not turning the attention back onto myself. Now I don't do it like this. I don't do it. It's just the way it works. I mean, maybe I've developed that skill over time to do it like
Yeah.
that, but I don't think about it now. It just happens that way. But I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious as to what they're feeling, and probably I'm particularly curious if what they're feeling is something I can relate to because I've felt it. But I
Mm.
just trust my intuition. So in the same way that you do, you're recognizing that something has been triggered in you that sounds like the same as what they're experiencing.
Yes.
Right? So instead of jumping up and down and saying, me too, me too, me too, look at me, right? You'll find out, oh, is this what you're feeling? Or are you feeling that
Yeah.
kind of
That
thing?
makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad we shone a light on that, because I see the difference. And I see you doing that, but I haven't made sense of that. I just see that it's
Mm.
different. And that curiosity, I love the curiosity, because that takes the onus on anybody being correct.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
most of it is, and I don't want to come across as saying I know. What I want to come across is saying I would like to know.
Yeah.
You share with me or whatever. Yeah. But I do. But see, what's unspoken here is that there is a degree of excitement in the fact that I trust my intuition to be in
Mm.
sync with what's going on. And I kind of like that. And you've got that
Oh,
ability, that skill too.
I
Yeah.
got a really lovely feeling with that. Got a really, because that intuition is what wants to be spoken.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And as you learn to trust it, you get better and better at it.
Mm.
You'll be like me, and you'll just be a blabbermouth, and that's what'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, really, I really found that helpful. Thank you. Because it's been bubbling underneath, not,
Mm.
you can't, I'm kind of keeping it kind of hidden and not spoken about. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So that
lovely.
that that really, I mean, if we analyze it a little bit, we can say what gets to me in a movie. I can be watching a movie or even a kids movie, and I sometimes tell the story of watching a Shaun the Sheep movie. This was many years ago now with my grandson. I don't know how old he was, but here we are watching this kids movie, and I'm bawling my eyes out, and it's all because of connection that's happening. you know, and
Mm.
just connection just gets me. Every time somebody comes home, every time some people discover each other again, you know, there's
Yeah.
this just breaks me up. I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
it's that same thing that with that intuition and other people, you know, it's that connection. Oh yeah, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Yes, yes, yeah. I love it. I get it with you.
Mm.
I get it with you a lot. Yes. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And I just can't get my mind around, and I'm okay with it. But I just the part of me that believes in fairy stories thinks, why isn't the whole world like this? Like
Mm.
nobody needs to be aggressive towards somebody else. Nobody needs to be angry with other people. You know, it's just what a wonderful world it could be if we were all like this, just just looking for that beautiful connection we've got with each other all the time. The whole world could be like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that people don't have that, but it's so glossed over.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Vince. I have to go, but this has been so lovely. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
See you soon.
Yep, okay.
Hey Vince,
Hi, Tammy.
how are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm okay.
Well, how far is
Um,
there between okay and good?
I don't know. That's what I'm here to explore.
Good, good.
How to get from okay to good.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll know you. I'll know you're good when you turn your camera on for me.
yeah. So we're still waiting on it. We're still at okay.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. I think last time you asked me about my fear and hypervigilance, and you said, had something happened in the house, like why are you afraid when you come in?
yeah,
And it
yeah,
actually put me into a whole thing of like remembering like my grandmother had stories of how she fought off intruders like several times in her house, and about one time when I walked in with my mother and she froze and our house had been
yeah,
entered and burglared. And so I think every time I come in I freeze like we did that day and look around. So it was interesting. And I spoke to someone about it and they said, you can, and I said, I always wish I was like blonde, like Zen and totally equanimous, not afraid of anything, with full trust in the universe, like walking around kind of in a cloud. And I'm like, but I'm just not that person. And she said to me, well, maybe you can look around when you come in, or look at, like, I also had a thing where I came out and this dog came rushing in, like out of the stairwell when I was going down one day, and that startled me. And since then I've been like looking every time, or afraid every time the elevator opens or every time the stairwell. And she said, you can look around when you come home, or you can look around when you open the door, but you don't have to do it in terror and fear. And that was very interesting to me. I was like, oh, I can still actually think, you know what, I'm not blonde, or I talk about it as blonde, but like
yeah. Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
I'm not like Zen or whatever, but and in full trust that I can walk blindly down the road, I can actually look around and maybe think to myself, oh, is there something to worry about? But I don't actually have to experience a gripping of terror and fear while I do it. That she like separated for me, that I can actually, mm,
yep,
you know,
yep. That's a good one.
not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So that was helpful. So I've been trying that for a few days.
Right.
And
Here's another one that you could add to that. That I saw this on a movie just recently, and it was somebody said to somebody else, "How come you're not afraid?" And that person said, I don't even remember what movie it was now, but anyway, that person said, well, I was afraid, but I only gave myself 5 seconds of fear, 5 seconds of feeling full on fear, and then I moved on. And so it was like you could walk in and be super vigilant in your scanning of the place for as long as it takes to look around everywhere, and then put it aside completely and forget about it altogether after that, if everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah, a different thing. Allow yourself to feel that hypervigilance for as long as it takes to scan the place. That should be about 10 seconds, or a couple of seconds in each room if you want to go into each room and do it. And then after that, drop it completely.
Assuming I have as much control over my mental and physical processes as you're as you're saying, but
Yeah, no,
I'll
no,
try.
no, no. I want to jump in here and I want to say to you, it's not a case of control. It's a case of recognize the possibility that that can happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it will either happen or not happen. It's not a case of you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So try it. That's what I'm suggesting you do. Try it out and see what happens. So you're intentionally saying to yourself, I'm going to be super vigilant and look around. And when that's done, I'm going to forget about it altogether. Now, whether it happens or not, that's another story. But have that as your intention and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, because I do have, like, I'll sit and I'll think I'm fine, but there's something that's always there. And like if I hear a tiny noise or rattle or key or sound, I jump. So
Mm.
and then I'm like, you see, you're not really calm. Underneath, you're actually always listening, and
Okay,
always
so
afraid.
if that happens, right, you can say, I assume that underneath I'm always vigilant. But what I do know is that my experience was I heard a sound and I jumped. And again, the moment I recognise that that was just a sound, I can drop it altogether. So again, you can allow yourself that 1.5 seconds of super vigilance, and then with the realization that it was just a sound outside or something, that it was nothing, I can totally relax again. I don't have to keep being vigilant. This is the whole point. That keeping vigilance keeps your body full of stress hormones, and that induces all sorts of negative things, both to your health and to your level of energy, etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, because I've been trying to get a hold of this my whole life to not be in fear. You know what I mean? So I'm like
Mm.
half given up on the thought that I have any control over it, but you're saying just beware of the possibility that it can happen. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, allow it.
Um,
That's right. Yeah. So this stuff came from when we were cavemen, and we had to be careful about getting jumped by a saber-toothed tiger, right? But the caveman didn't always worry about saber-toothed tigers. They knew that when they approached a certain position that there's more likely to be one, and so they were vigilant then. But out in the open, they weren't, because they knew that they would, generally speaking, that would always be safe. Or if they were in the cave with other people and a fire, they knew that they would be safe. They weren't vigilant then. But when in certain circumstances, they would be vigilant. So you can do the same kind of thing. You can be as vigilant as you like for the time it takes to recognize there's no danger. And at that point, you can drop it altogether. See, the old way of doing it was you kept yourself vigilant all the time. And that's exhausting and
yes,
unhealthy. Mm.
yes, yes. So I like that. So even cavemen, you're saying, had, were only vigilant when they heard something or saw something. That's good.
Yeah, when it was appropriate. That's right. Yeah.
Well,
And
appropriate
it's,
is tricky. To me, it's always appropriate. In other words, it's like
yeah,
you have to be on guard. That's how you have to live, or else you deserve what's coming to you. But yeah.
your perceptive abilities have been really fine-tuned by being this way in the past. So you'll have no trouble. They'll get activated automatically when they need to be. So you can be totally relaxed when they don't need to be, and the moment they need to be, they'll be there instantly because you've trained them to be that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the fear is if I become like Zen, then I'll be in a cloud fog of like self drugs, you know what I mean? And I won't
Yeah.
respond.
No,
But
no. That won't be the case ever. No. No,
mhm,
the more relaxed you are, the more Zen-like you are, the more you will be aware of what's going on around you. You'll have a much wider, bigger perceptive ability. Uh, so the
mhm,
more relaxed you are, the more open you are to take in what's there. The more tense you are, the narrower your focus is, and the more you're likely to miss what's going on unless it's inside that focus.
mhm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and then in terms of like identity or stuff like that, I don't know if there's any big shifts. I've still been watching, but yeah, I mean, clearly there's still some identification with this body and the one who's talking and the thoughts, but
Yeah. Don't put a big deal on that kind of stuff.
mhm,
It's like when it's not there, you won't even notice that it's not there. Right.
mhm,
So look for the moment when it is there. So the moment you have a bodily contraction, then ask yourself what's going on. So it's actually a version of what we've been talking about. It's a version of your vigilance. So if you can be completely relaxed until you have a bodily contraction of some kind, and the moment you do, that can be a trigger for you, an alarm, if you like, that goes off that says, look what's going on. What is happening in the body at the moment? What is happening in the mind at the moment? What's going on for you? So that contraction will tell you that there's some identification happening. There's a protective response going on in the body. But until that happens, be completely relaxed. You don't need to be worried about it.
mhm,
So the thing is, not identifying doesn't exist as anything because it's the absence of something.
mhm,
So instead of looking to be not identified, be totally relaxed until you recognize that you are identified. And when you are, the only thing to do is to be aware of it. And
mhm,
that's enough to change it.
mhm.
Simply be aware. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thing last night where I was in tremendous pain and I couldn't even define it as pain. Like the body was like buzzing and shaking and just so uncomfortable, like restless leg or something. I don't know. It was just wild. And just, I think, exhausted because I had only slept 2 hours the night before. There was a lot going on here. And just by the next night, I was just like kind of shaking. It was just so uncomfortable. My body was fighting. It was like it wanted to
Yeah.
sleep, but it
Yeah.
was wired. It was just hours of such discomfort. And I was like, okay, you got to go into, um, you know, into it rather than staying on the surface and being tense and suffering with it. I wasn't really able for a minute or two. um, I was slightly able, but most of the time I was kind of just, yeah, I was just in the suffering of it and on the surface. But
Mm.
yeah, so I haven't been able to delve so deeply. It was interesting what you said to the two people before. I mean, the guy about burning up and stuff. Sometimes I have a feeling of like, I'm being like, mm,
Yep.
lazy or not intense enough, and that I should kind of force my way into that kind of
Yeah.
hit myself over the head until I burn
Yeah.
everything up and just sit in one
Yeah.
place and say I'm not getting up until I'm freaking enlightened, you know what I mean? And like kind of just go into
Mm.
some, I don't know, mass psychosis or something, like just like kind of force myself into some deep state
Yeah. I get
of
it. Yeah.
inquiry. And on the other hand, I understand like Louise and whatever of, I think that's more how it's with me, like little drips over my lifetime. I have very, very intense experience over my lifetime, but But I think it's like a drip and a drab. Like suddenly I'm like, oh, a little bit more, like watching myself from the outside,
Yeah,
or a little
yeah,
bit more, is this me? But yeah, because I guess the fear is that A, I'll go crazy or something if I do it, or B, that it won't fully work. I'll just be deluding myself into some, fireball of a deep experience, but it won't necessarily take me through to being fully burnt up or
yeah, yeah,
awake or
yeah.
something. So anyway, I don't know. What do you think about those?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you're spot on with what you say, but perhaps for a slightly different reason. Um, and the first one is correct. It won't work, um, because you can't do that. You can tell yourself you can do that, and you can tell yourself that you'll deserve something better if you work hard at it. But that's not the way this works. How this does work is by becoming aware of certain things, they'll change. And eventually that will leave us with a different way of looking at everything and everybody and ourselves. And that's really what we're on about. That's the difference that will happen. And so what Joe was talking about was very specifically a Joe thing. That was him, and that intensity that he came with. But what you didn't know about it wasn't that he did that intensity uh, as an act of free will. He did that because that's what his personality is. He did that because that's what his history led him to. That's what all of the conditions in his life led him. He had no choice about that. He couldn't do it in any other way but that way, because that's him. That's the way it is for him. Right. So how it is for you, well, we don't know, but we're going to find out. How it is for you is just how it is for you, and where we're going to find out is here now, where you are, and in this moment. That's where it's all about. That's where the recognition of what's going on is. So how fast it goes or how slow it goes, it's not in your control, not in anybody's control. It's just going to be the way it's going to be. So the sooner you recognize that and go along with that, the quicker it will be. But that's not something you can do either. You can't choose how fast you recognize what's going on. That will just happen according to your experience. And that's what
Yeah.
we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess there's always thoughts like, oh, you're just being lazy or not committed enough. And like you should. And
Ah,
I'm frustrated that I can't go in at every moment and that I'm like not.
yeah. Well, so all of that, I'm lazy and all that stuff, they're just bullshit thoughts. Throw them out, put them in the bin. They're of no value whatsoever. They're negative value. They'll
Yeah.
cause more issues, and they can't achieve anything. Right? Laziness doesn't exist. Right? What we describe as lazy is a whole lot of other things. Why there's no energy there for that, why there's no belief in it, why there's no recognition that that's an appropriate pathway, whatever. There's no such thing as laziness. Um, Believe me, I lived with my father calling me lazy for many years, and I analysed lazy till there was nothing left, and it's purely a concept. It has no validity in reality at all. If
Yeah.
somebody,
It's just trying to force myself into something. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, and if you see people that you would call them lazy, it's because there's a whole lot of reasons why they don't want to do that or why they can't bring themselves to do that. It's not, there's no morality in it like there is in laziness. It's a lot of other things involved.
Or maybe like I'm not committed enough. In other words, that I'm not like trying to force myself into enough energy to make it happen. But yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you can't do those things. You can pretend you can, and people will say you can, but you can't actually. The reality is that you're going to do what you're going to do, and that's the way it is. Yeah.
So there's no value or I shouldn't try to shame myself or force myself into it, like to some intense
Absolutely,
experience.
yeah. That's the same as being hyper vigilant all the time. That's just going to get you exhausted and not achieve anything. Yeah.
No, but
But
it's like one real bout of terror or hypervigilance, like just, sink into it, really do, like kind of work myself into a lather about it or something. No.
that's right. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay.
Okay.
What I want you to do is I want you to send me an email, just so I've got your email address. And I've got in mind to do some work. I did a meditation for a lady yesterday, and I just thought to myself when you were talking there, that would be of value to you to do that same meditation. So what I'll do is, if I can find a space and a moment to do it, I'll go and I'll cut that meditation out of the video I did for that session, so it's anonymous, and you've just got the meditation, and then I'll send it to you in the email. So you send me an email. You've
What
got
is your
my.
email?
I'll put it in the chat
Chat.
now, but you've got it. You've probably got it anyway already. But here you go.
Okay.
It's my name, Vince Schubert @gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yep,
And what
there
would
you
you
go.
tell me as homework for this week? Thank you so much. And what would you tell me as homework for this week?
Um, I'll post this video up maybe tonight or tomorrow, maybe even tomorrow afternoon. I've got a pretty busy morning, and then your homework will be to watch this part of the video where we've been speaking again, and really allow it to sink in at a deep level. Even if you've got to rewind it and listen to this part or bits of it again and again until you can really take in deeply stuff that I've been saying to you. Because I've got in my mind that these are really key points for you. Right? Because every one of them we've been talking about is a life-changing thing for you, and it's changing habits, which is a really big thing. And so by you listening to it a few times, that's going to really hammer that home for you in a way. But you'll hear different things each time you listen to it, and one of the times when you listen to it, so you can just fast forward or drag your mouse, drag the button along to the right spot where we're talking. But one of the things I want you to do is listen to yourself, listen to the questions that you're asking and the things that you say, right? But listen to them from a perspective that I've been talking about. So in other words, I want you to channel me as you listen to yourself talking on the video. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Listen to them as if I'm you.
Yes. Pretend that you're me. Pretend that you're listening to yourself from the perspective that I have told you.
Like say to myself what you would have said.
Yeah, and listen to yourself talking. And so this is a really powerful technique where you're actually objectifying your own voice, but because it's your own voice and you're listening from my perspective, but you've also got the sound of my voice in the back of your mind, it's going to have a much more powerful effect than it would where you've just listened to me now. Because see, you've already forgotten some of the stuff I've told you already, probably. Because that's the nature of things. We don't retain everything. What you hear changes you, and you don't need to remember it to do that. But by listening to it a couple of times, and one of those times from the perspective of my way of looking at the world, it's going to have a much deeper effect than it would normally. Okay. And then the other bit of the homework is to send me your email address, and if I can cut this meditation out for you, I think it'll be very, very helpful for you. Yeah.
So more about if I would try to, so listen to the video, and so when I hear myself speaking in real life, like now, to kind of imagine as if it's with a dialogue with you and hear it as like a third person who's talking to you, as if it's
Okay,
not me.
yeah, that's an extra one. That's not what I was saying, but that's a good one too. I like that. But no, I was saying when you were listening to yourself talk on the video, right, what you've already said today to me and what I've responded to, but as you're listening to yourself, so you're kind of ignoring what I'm saying and you're listening to what you're saying, and one of the replays, you're listening to yourself, but as you're listening to yourself, you're thinking that you're me. You're channeling my attitude or my worldview, if you like, as you're listening to yourself talk. Is that a bit tricky?
And kind of answer myself with your voice?
No. Just listen to it from that perspective as you understand it.
As if I'm you when I'm listening to myself. Listen to
Yes,
me as
yes,
if I'm you. Okay, I get it.
yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got it. Right, great. Yeah. Yeah. So what you'll find, see, your voice will sound different to you as you speak it than when you're actually speaking it, because you're hearing it on the video,
Right.
and it's coming from outside. So it has a different effect than when you're hearing your own voice from the inside.
Okay. And what am I looking for?
You're just
Just
listening to
listen.
what it is you're saying, and then as a result of that, you're um, uh, we'll finish that one, I think. Oh, let it go. As a result of listening to yourself from the outside, it'll come in. It'll come in differently. It's it, it's coming in through your ears, not from inside your head, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally
yeah,
get it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then, and when fear rises or whatever, don't shame myself or think that I have any control over it, but be aware of the possibility of like I can check it out and let it go.
Yes,
And
yes. Good one.
then
Yeah.
let go of any kind of shame or trying to force or feeling like I'm lazy for not having realized yet and not going into it deeply in every moment. In other words, just when I can kind of go into sensation, like if there's pain or fear or sadness or contraction in the body, just try and go into the sensation and leave the thoughts behind.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
All right. I haven't found myself as able to go deeply into sensation, like get into some zone or some state when I go into things this week as deeply. But
Okay. Yeah.
even if I
Yeah.
go in on a shallow level or.
Yes, any amount is good value. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's an interesting one, and one that I've taken me a long time to understand that some people have trouble getting into their sensations in the beginning, but you will get better at it, and we'll work on that a little bit as well. So with this meditation, if I remember how I did it, I'll do a new one if I can't do that. Um, that will also help you with those sensations to get into them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of focus or something with me. Like I can't fully always collect my faculties, or like I can't always collect my thoughts or my awareness or something to be right here, like to go where I
Yes.
want it to do or
Yeah.
something. And all right, so you're saying even small amounts are good and not to feel constantly like I'm failing, just whatever amount I
Absolutely.
can in the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Look, yeah.
Okay.
There's no way you're failing. The fact that you're here means you're not failing for sure. Yeah. That's good. All right.
All right. Thank you so, so much. I truly, truly appreciate it. Really, from my heart to yours. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Tammy. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. All the best.
Yep.